Welcome to another deep dive.
Yeah.
Today, we're going to be exploring a question you've probably pondered before.
Okay.
What really leads to success? We're going beyond that usual, work hard, be talented narrative.
Right.
And uncovering the hidden factors at play.
Okay.
And our guide for this, it's Malcolm Gladwell's Outliers.
Okay. Yeah.
We're going to dissect some key excerpts.
Okay.
See how things like circumstance and legacy can sometimes matter even more than we realize.
I think that's a very, very good point to start off with.
Yeah.
It's fascinating how we often fixate on individual traits when we're explaining success. But outliers really reveals a much more intricate picture.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And to kick things off, we're diving into one of Gladwell's most famous ideas.
Okay.
The 10,000-hour rule.
Right.
You've probably heard it before.
Yep.
10,000 hours of practice is the key to mastery.
It's the thing that everybody says.
Right. But there's a layer here that Gladwell unpacks brilliantly.
All right. So it's not just about putting in the hours, it's about access to those hours.
Oh, interesting.
So just think of it like this.
Okay.
Imagine someone with incredible musical talent,
Right.
but they live somewhere with zero access to instruments or teachers.
Yeah.
That talent might never truly flourish. Right?
It's almost like it doesn't exist.
Right.
Yeah.
It's there, but it's dormant.
Yeah.
It needs that nurturing.
That nurturing, that fertilizer or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That needs the food.
Yeah. And Gladwell gives some pretty mind-blowing examples of this in action.
Yeah, for sure.
Take the Beatles.
Okay.
Before they were selling out stadiums,
Right.
they were slogging it out in Hamburg, Germany,
Yeah.
playing night after night,
Yeah.
sometimes for 8 hours straight.
Oh, wow.
We're talking 270 nights in just a little over a year and a half,
Oh, wow.
totaling an estimated 1,200 performances.
I mean, that's crazy.
Think about that for a second.
Yeah.
That's not just practice. It's intense real-world experience that most bands just never get.
Right. And to play off of your gardening analogy before,
Yeah.
It's like they're being pruned and watered,
Right.
day after day after day.
Yeah.
And that sheer volume of stage time allows them to experiment,
Right.
to refine their style,
Yeah.
and develop a synergy as a band
Yeah.
that you just can't replicate in a practice room.
Totally.
Like a masterclass in collaboration and performance,
Yeah.
fueled by constant exposure to a live audience.
Right.
So,
It really makes you wonder, how many potential Beatles are out there,
right.
brimming with talent, but just lacking that crucial access to consistent, high-intensity practice.
For sure. And it's not even just music.
Yeah.
Gladwell brings up this concept in the tech world too.
Oh, right.
Right. And it makes perfect sense,
Yeah.
Like, remember Bill Joy, software legend?
Yeah.
Behind so much of early Silicon Valley.
Yep.
So Joy's story is a perfect example of how a seemingly small advantage can snowball into massive success.
Totally.
In the early 1970s, he had access to a time-sharing computer terminal,
Wow.
a rarity back then.
Yeah.
This allowed him to, rack up an insane amount of programming hours,
Right.
way more than most of his peers.
It's like the difference between someone learning to cook by just reading a cookbook
Right.
versus actually working in a professional kitchen every day.
Yeah.
The hands-on experience is invaluable.
It's invaluable.
And Bill Gates had a similar story.
Right.
Access to a computer terminal in the 1960s,
Right.
plus a series of lucky breaks that landed him programming gigs and free computer time.
Yeah.
Again, it's not just luck, it's opportunity compounded by those hours of practice.
Yeah, definitely. And when you consider how competitive fields like tech and music are, those early advantages, they can be the difference between, making it and fading into obscurity.
Totally.
What's fascinating is how this concept applies to almost any field,
Right.
from sports to writing
Yeah.
to entrepreneurship.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
So for all of you listening, this is a good moment to pause and think. Where are those 10,000-hour opportunities in your field?
Right.
Are you actively seeking them out?
Yeah.
Maybe it's joining a writer's group, volunteering for a challenging project at work,
Yep.
or taking on that side hustle you've been dreaming about.
Right.
The key takeaway here, dedication and talent are crucial.
Yeah.
But without the right opportunities to hone your skills, they might not reach their full potential.
Right. And it challenges us to think about how we can create more equitable access to those opportunities.
Yeah.
Whether it's through like mentorship programs,
Right.
affordable training, or simply raising awareness of the importance of, consistent, dedicated practice.
Right. It's like, how do we even the playing field a little bit?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now let's move on to another deeply ingrained belief that Gladwell challenges.
Okay.
The idea that a high IQ
Okay.
is the ultimate predictor of success.
Right.
He tackles this head-on by comparing two very different individuals, Christopher Langan and Robert Oppenheimer.
Right.
So Langan, often cited as like the smartest man in America,
Okay.
possesses an incredibly high IQ,
Okay.
but has faced immense challenges translating that intelligence into worldly success.
Yeah.
His life has been marked by financial hardship
Wow.
and difficulty navigating academic institutions despite his genius-level intellect.
Yeah. So it's almost like he has all the ingredients.
Right.
But he doesn't know the recipe.
Yeah, he doesn't know how to cook.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then we have Oppenheimer,
Okay.
another brilliant mind,
Uh-huh.
but one who achieved immense success leading the Manhattan Project. But Gladwell argues that what set Oppenheimer apart wasn't just his IQ.
Mm.
It was his social skills and his ability to navigate these complex situations.
Right.
He came from a privileged background that equipped him with a different set of tools, so to speak.
It's like he was given the recipe book.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And Oppenheimer's ability to persuade,
Uh-huh.
negotiate, and build relationships was crucial in his leadership role.
Right.
He even managed to navigate a controversial past
Wow.
and gain the trust of those around him.
So it's not just book smarts, it's like street smarts too.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
And this highlights a concept that Gladwell calls practical intelligence,
Okay.
which encompasses skills like problem solving, adaptability, and social awareness.
Yeah.
And he illustrates this beautifully with this uses of a brick example.
Okay.
So imagine a group of students asked to come up with as many uses for a brick as possible. What Gladwell found was that students with extremely high IQs often struggled, getting stuck in conventional thinking,
Okay.
while students with what he calls practical intelligence came up with creative, unconventional solutions.
Right.
Using the brick as a doorstop, a paperweight, even a musical instrument.
Interesting. Yeah.
It's like the difference between knowing all the theoretical answers and actually being able to apply that knowledge in the real world.
Yeah.
Think of it like you can have all the ingredients for a gourmet meal, but if you don't know how to cook, those ingredients are useless.
Right.
Practical intelligence is that knowing how to cook.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good analogy. So it's like you need multiple types of intelligence to be successful.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And this challenges us to think beyond just raw intelligence as the sole measure of potential.
Right.
It brings to light how social intelligence, resilience, problem-solving skills are equally vital for navigating the real world and achieving success. So think about yourself for a moment.
Okay.
Are you a master of brick problem-solving? Do you excel at connecting with people, navigating tricky situations, thinking outside the box?
Yeah. It's about recognizing that success isn't a one-size-fits-all formula.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Totally.
Yeah.
Different fields require different blends of intelligence and skills.
Right.
And speaking of different paths to success, let's dive into the profound impact of upbringing.
Okay.
Gladwell explores this through the work of sociologist Annette Lareau,
Okay.
who identified two distinct parenting styles
Okay.
that are prevalent across different socioeconomic classes.
Interesting.
She calls them concerted cultivation and accomplishment of natural growth.
Okay.
So concerted cultivation, often seen in middle and upper class families,
Okay.
involves actively fostering children's talents,
Right.
opinions, and a sense of entitlement.
Okay.
Parents engage their children in structured activities,
Okay.
encourage them to question authority,
Okay.
and instill a belief that they have a right to be heard and respected.
Yeah.
It's like they're constantly cultivating their children's skills and worldview,
Right.
preparing them to navigate the often unspoken rules of success.
Interesting.
On the other hand, we have accomplishment of natural growth.
Okay.
This is more prevalent in working class families,
Okay.
focuses on providing care and allowing children to develop more independently.
Okay.
Children are given more freedom to structure their own time.
Okay.
They're less likely to challenge authority figures.
Right.
And might not have the same level of exposure to these structured activities or opportunities for self-advocacy.
Makes sense.
And Gladwell brings this to life with two contrasting examples.
Okay.
Alex Williams and Katie Brindle.
Okay.
So Alex, raised with concerted cultivation, interacts with a doctor during a checkup with confidence,
Okay.
asking questions, even challenging the doctor's authority.
Right.
He's been taught to see himself as deserving of respect and attention.
Okay. Interesting.
While Katie,
Yeah.
raised with accomplishment of natural growth, is more reserved,
Okay.
less likely to assert herself in the same way.
Right.
She might be just as intelligent and capable,
Right.
but her upbringing hasn't necessarily equipped her with the same tools for navigating these types of interactions.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Now, it's important to note that Leroux isn't suggesting one parenting style is inherently better than the other.
Right.
They both have their strengths and limitations.
Yeah.
However, when it comes to navigating institutions
Yeah.
and achieving conventional success, the skills and attitudes fostered by concerted cultivation can provide a distinct advantage.
Right.
It's like knowing the secret handshake to get into the club.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So this is something for all of you out there to consider.
Yeah.
How has your own upbringing shaped your communication and interaction styles?
Yeah.
Do you naturally assert yourself, or are you more inclined to step back and observe? Recognizing these patterns can be incredibly insightful.
It's about understanding how these early experiences can shape our comfort levels with authority, our ability to advocate for ourselves,
Right.
and even our perceptions of what's possible.
Totally.
Yeah.
Now, ready to shift gears?
Okay.
Because for our next discussion point, we're zooming out to look at the role of generation
Okay.
and historical context.
What?
This is where Gladwell introduces this concept of demographic luck,
Okay.
which suggests that people born in certain years face inherent advantages or disadvantages,
Okay.
simply based on historical events
Okay.
and population trends.
Right.
It's almost like the universe is playing favorites, but in a totally random way.
Right. So like some people just get lucky.
Yeah.
Based on when they're born.
Right.
Yeah.
One of the most compelling examples of this is the story of Joe Flom,
Yep.
highly successful lawyer.
Okay.
His success can be partly attributed to being born in the 1930s,
Hmm.
a period of relatively low birth rates. Okay. This meant that he faced less competition when entering the workforce
Okay.
and had more opportunities to rise through the ranks.
Yeah.
It's like being a surfer who paddles out on a day with perfect waves and no one else around.
Yeah.
You know, you're almost guaranteed to catch some amazing rides.
Makes sense.
And Gladwell highlights another example with Jewish lawyers
Okay.
who came of age in New York City
Okay.
during a specific period
Right.
when litigation work was looked down upon by established firms.
Interesting.
This inadvertently created a niche for these lawyers to thrive,
Right.
precisely because they weren't competing for the same prestigious roles as their peers.
Interesting. Yeah.
It's fascinating how these seemingly random historical events can create ripples
Right.
that impact entire industries
Right.
and shape the trajectories of countless individuals.
Makes sense. Yeah.
It really makes you think about how timing and circumstance can play such a huge role,
Yeah.
often overshadowing individual talent or ambition.
Right.
To illustrate this further, Gladwell contrasts the careers of Maurice Janklow, born in 1902, and his son, Mort Janklow, born in 1930.
Okay.
So Maurice, facing the immense challenges of the Great Depression,
Right.
struggled to achieve the same level of success as his son,
Yeah.
who benefited from the post-war economic boom.
Right.
It's a stark reminder that even within the same family, the opportunities available can vary drastically depending on when you're born.
Right. And what's interesting is how this, this all kind of plays into the nature versus nurture debate.
Oh, totally.
Because you have like the nature side of things, which is like the individual's talent and hard work.
Right.
And then you have the nurture side of things, which is like the opportunities that they're given. And, Gladwell is arguing that the nurture side of things is actually more important.
Right.
Yeah.
So think about your own life for a moment.
Okay.
Have you ever benefited from demographic luck? Maybe being in the right place at the right time with the right skills?
Yeah.
Or have you faced challenges due to economic downturns or shifts in your industry?
Right.
Recognizing these larger forces can help us better understand our own journey.
Yeah, for sure.
And appreciate the role that circumstance plays in shaping our opportunities.
Absolutely.
Now, let's explore a seemingly unrelated but incredibly insightful topic. The link between cultural legacy and plane crashes.
Plane crashes.
It might sound strange at first.
Yeah, a little bit.
But Gladwell brilliantly connects the dots, demonstrating how cultural differences in communication style can have a direct impact on safety in high-pressure situations, like a cockpit.
Interesting,
So he dives into the case of Korean Air, which for a period had a troubling safety record. Gladwell attributes this in part to Korea's High Power Distance Index, or PDI. This means there's a deep respect for authority and a hesitancy to challenge superiors, even when necessary. Now, picture yourself in a cockpit, high-stakes environment, where clear communication is absolutely vital. Imagine a co-pilot notices a potential problem, but they're hesitant to directly challenge the captain because of this ingrained cultural norm. It's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, for sure.
And sadly, this is exactly what happened in some of the Korean air crashes. Co-pilots, instead of clearly stating their concerns, would use mitigated speech, hinting at problems, or phrasing concerns indirectly. This led to critical miscommunications and ultimately tragic consequences. It's a chilling example of how cultural differences can play out in unexpected ways with life or death consequences. But the story has a silver lining. Once Korean Air recognized this cultural factor, they implemented training programs to address it. They encouraged a more assertive communication style in the cockpit, empowering co-pilots to speak up directly when they saw potential problems. And the results were remarkable. Their safety record significantly improved. It's a testament to the power of acknowledging and addressing these cultural nuances, especially in fields where teamwork and effective communication are paramount.
And what's interesting is how this, this applies to not just like, life or death situations, but also to like everyday interactions.
Totally.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you're working on a team project and you see that one of your team members is, is heading in the wrong direction. It's important to, to speak up and to be assertive. Even if it's uncomfortable.
Even if they're like the leader of the team.
Exactly.
This raises an important question for you. Think about your own cultural background and how it might influence your communication style, particularly in high-stakes situations. Are you someone who speaks up directly? Or do you tend to soften your message? And how might that impact your effectiveness in different contexts?
It's about developing cultural intelligence, being aware of these differences, and adapting our communication style accordingly.
Just being sensitive to those around you.
Yeah, for sure.
And now for our final discussion point in this section, we're going to get a bit personal. Gladwell shares his own Jamaican story, revealing how his mother's educational opportunities were shaped by a series of seemingly random events and the strength of his grandmother's legacy.
Interesting.
It's a beautiful example of how personal stories can illuminate these larger themes. So my mother was able to attend a prestigious high school thanks to a scholarship that became available because of a student protest in 1937. And her path was further shaped by my grandmother, Daisy Nation, who was an incredible woman. And Daisy's story is fascinating. She was a descendant of Jamaica's colored class, which emerged from relationships between white plantation owners and their slaves. What's intriguing is that Jamaica developed a unique social structure, unlike the rigid racial hierarchy of the American South.
Interesting.
So mulattoes, those of mixed race, often received educational opportunities and held prominent positions in society. They became like the cultural elite, even though they weren't necessarily the wealthiest.
So it's almost like a middle class, but based on, race rather than wealth.
Totally. And this cultural legacy, rooted in resilience and resourcefulness, had a profound impact on my family's trajectory. It instilled this belief in the power of education and a drive to succeed against the odds.
It's like it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy almost, like you believe in yourself.
Yeah.
so you succeed.
Yeah, and then that success then furthers that belief.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, it's a cycle.
Yeah.
And it highlights how these legacies
Yeah.
passed down through generations
Yeah.
can shape our values,
Right.
our aspirations,
Right.
and even our opportunities.
For sure.
But it also raises a question.
Yeah.
What legacies are we shaping today?
Right.
And how will they impact the generations that come after us?
It's a reminder that our actions have ripple effects,
Right.
reaching far beyond our own lives.
Yeah.
And that by understanding the forces that have shaped our own paths,
Yeah.
we can make more conscious choices about the world we want to create.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Welcome back.
Oh,
Before we move on,
Yeah.
I want to touch upon something you mentioned earlier about the legacies we're shaping today. It's a powerful thought and connects beautifully to a point Gladwell makes about the nature of work itself. He argues that meaningful work contributes significantly to success.
Right.
And he draws this fascinating parallel between the work ethic of rice farmers in Asia and the success of Jewish immigrants in the garment industry.
I love this part of the book. It's so unexpected.
Yeah.
Rice paddies and fashion houses.
Yeah.
What could they possibly have in common? But Gladwell makes this brilliant connection showing how both groups engaged in work that was incredibly demanding, but also incredibly rewarding.
Exactly. The rice paddy, with its constant demands and direct connection between labor and yield, cultivated a culture of diligence, resilience, and a deep understanding of the relationship between effort and reward.
Right.
And this wasn't just about physical labor.
Right.
It was about problem solving, resourcefulness,
Yeah.
and adapting to ever-changing conditions.
Think about it. You're a rice farmer, and your livelihood depends on understanding the nuances of the weather,
Right.
the soil, the irrigation systems.
It's a constant challenge. But it's also deeply meaningful because you're directly contributing to something essential, feeding your family, your community.
Yeah.
And this translates beautifully to Gladwell's analysis of Jewish immigrants in the garment industry.
Right.
They often worked long hours in challenging conditions,
Mm-hmm.
but the work offered a level of autonomy,
Uh-huh.
complexity,
Yeah.
and a direct link between effort and reward
Yeah.
that was deeply fulfilling.
Right. They weren't just cogs in a machine.
Right.
They were entrepreneurs, craftspeople, problem solvers.
Exactly.
And what's so interesting is how Gladwell connects these seemingly disparate examples to the world of education.
Yeah.
He brings in Key IPP Academy, a charter school known for its rigorous schedule and emphasis on hard work.
Right.
The school has achieved remarkable success in raising math scores for underprivileged students.
Yeah.
And Gladwell suggests this is partly due to its mirroring of this meaningful work ethic.
So at Keep IPP, students have long hours, high expectations, and a clear understanding that their effort directly translates into results.
Right. It's not just about rote learning.
Right.
It's about cultivating a sense of purpose,
Right.
discipline, and the belief that hard work leads to tangible rewards.
Exactly.
So for all of you listening, this raises an important question. What makes work meaningful for you?
Yeah.
Is it the challenge, the impact,
Right.
the sense of accomplishment, the
Yeah.
connection to something larger than yourself?
Exactly.
And how can you cultivate that sense of meaning, even in tasks that might seem mundane or tedious?
It's about finding those elements of purpose and engagement that fuel our motivation and drive us to excel.
Totally.
And this brings us back to the legacies we create.
Right.
Are we creating work environments,
Yeah.
educational systems,
Yeah.
and societal structures
Yeah.
that foster a sense of meaning and purpose?
Totally.
Or are we inadvertently perpetuating systems that prioritize short-term gains over long-term fulfillment?
That's a question worth pondering.
It is. Now, before we wrap up this part of our deep dive,
Okay.
I want to revisit something we touched on earlier. The idea that success isn't just about individual merit, but also about the opportunities and legacies we inherit.
Right. You shared a powerful story about your mother's educational journey. How she was able to attend a prestigious high school thanks to a scholarship that became available due to a student protest in 1937.
Yeah.
It beautifully highlights the interplay of seemingly random events and the ripple effects of collective action.
It's amazing to think about, right, those students who protested, They had no idea that their actions would create a ripple that would eventually impact my mother's life and subsequently my own.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that we're all interconnected in ways we often don't realize.
We are.
And your grandmother, Daisy Nation, played such a crucial role in shaping your family's legacy. Coming from Jamaica's colored class.
Right.
She embodied a spirit of resilience and a belief in the power of education that clearly reverberated through the generations. And she sounds like she was an incredible woman.
She was an incredible woman.
Yeah.
And her story is a testament to the strength and determination of those who came before us, paving the way for future generations.
That's really cool.
It makes me think about all the unseen forces that have shaped our lives.
Right.
The sacrifices made, the battles fought, the opportunities created, all leading up to this moment.
It's a humbling perspective.
Right.
Realizing that we are all beneficiaries of these legacies, both big and small.
Yeah.
And it begs the question, what are we doing to honor those legacies? Are we using our opportunities to create a more just and equitable world?
Right.
Or are we taking them for granted?
It's a challenge, isn't it?
It is.
To recognize the privileges we've been given and use them to create positive change.
And that brings us back to the heart of Gladwell's message.
Yeah.
Success is not a solo act. It's a symphony of interconnected forces.
Right.
Individual effort, historical context, cultural legacies,
Yeah.
and a healthy dose of luck.
I love that. A symphony of interconnected forces.
It is. It really is.
Yeah.
It's about understanding this complex interplay and recognizing that our individual stories are woven into a much larger tapestry.
And we'll delve deeper into this in part 3, exploring how Gladwell challenges us to think differently about success and what it truly means to be an outlier.
Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into outliers.
We've covered a lot of ground, from the 10,000-hour rule to the impact of upbringing and cultural legacies.
Right.
Now let's tie it all together and see how Gladwell challenges our very notion of success.
One of the most powerful takeaways from Outliers is how it dismantles the myth of the self-made person.
Yeah.
It's easy to look at successful individuals and attribute their achievements solely to talent and hard work. But Gladwell reveals a much more nuanced reality.
Right. He shows us how success is often a product of a complex web of factors, many of which are beyond our control.
Yeah.
Opportunities, legacies, historical timing, cultural influences.
Right. It's almost like we're all playing a hand of cards. But some of us are dealt a much better hand than others.
Right.
And recognizing this can be both humbling and empowering.
Yeah.
Humbling, because it forces us to acknowledge that our accomplishments are not entirely our own.
Right.
We all stand on the shoulders of those who came before us, and we've all benefited from opportunities that were often created by forces beyond our individual control.
But it's also empowering because it challenges us to think differently about success.
Right.
It's not just about individual achievement. It's about creating a world where everyone has a fair chance to succeed, regardless of the hand they were dealt.
It's about recognizing those hidden advantages.
Right.
Those opportunities that some of us have been given and others have been denied.
Right.
And it's about using our awareness to level the playing field.
Totally.
To create a more just and equitable society where success is less about luck and more about access and opportunity.
This raises a really important question. Now that you're aware of these hidden advantages, how can you use this knowledge to identify and create opportunities, not just for yourself, but for others as well?
It's a good question.
Maybe it's mentoring someone from a less privileged background, advocating for policies that promote equal access to education, or simply being more aware of the ways in which our own biases and assumptions might be perpetuating inequality.
Right. It's about shifting our focus from individual responsibility to shared responsibility,
Right.
recognizing that creating a more just world requires collective effort.
And Gladwell doesn't just leave us with this thought-provoking challenge. He offers a glimpse into what this kind of collective effort can achieve.
Okay.
He tells the story of Harlan, Kentucky,
Right.
a place once known for its violent feuds,
Yeah.
but which underwent a remarkable transformation thanks to the intervention of a group of dedicated individuals who worked to break the cycle of poverty and violence.
It's a powerful example of how understanding cultural legacies,
Right.
addressing systemic issues, and fostering a sense of community can create real and lasting change.
It shows that while we may be products of our circumstances,
Right.
we are not prisoners of them.
We can change.
We have the power to shape our destinies and create a more just and equitable world.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into outliers,
Yeah.
I hope you're walking away with a renewed sense of possibility.
Me too.
We've learned that success is far more complex than we often realize.
Yeah.
A symphony of individual effort, historical context, cultural influences, and a healthy dose of luck.
Definitely.
But within that complex web, there's still room for agency,
Right.
for making choices that ripple outward, creating positive change for ourselves and for generations to come.
It's inspiring, isn't it?
It is.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It was fun.
We hope it sparked some new insights and inspired you to think differently about your own journey and the legacies you're shaping in the world. Now go out there and make your own outlier story, one that acknowledges the complexities of success, the privileges you've been given, and the responsibility you have to create opportunities for others.
I like that.
We'll see you next time.